So get comfortable and we will start getting started with a little bit of our agenda and some of the housekeeping. So thank you all for taking the time to be here today. My name is Cheyenne Sapp. I'm the campaign director of National Voter Registration Day. It's so good to see just so many familiar faces and friends. We have, so many questions coming in from partners, and we really wanted to do this kickoff so that we could start answering a lot of those questions and get ready for the year ahead. So as you are all getting settled, we will just get started with a little bit of housekeeping. The most popular question that we get is this webinar being recorded? Yes, this webinar is being recorded and the link will be shared. I'll say it again. Yes, this webinar is being recorded. We want you to have this information, so you will receive a link to this deck as well as the recording of this webinar. In your Zoom panel, many of you are already using our reaction tools, which is great. You're also dropping in information into the chat. So keep doing that. But if you have any questions, use the Q&A box, okay? Because Gwen and Jack will be monitoring the chat. They'll be dropping in links over there, but we'll be raising up your questions for the Q&A part of this discussion. So just make sure that you're putting your questions into the Q&A box. So now let's get started. So a little bit about who we are and what we do. National Voter Registration Day is managed by Nonprofit Vote, which is the leading provider of nonpartisan resources for nonprofit organizations. And you can check out our biennial report to learn about the work that we've done over the past couple of years and visit our website at nonprofitvote.org. I know many of you are already Nonprofit Vote partners, but we'd love to have you if you are not just yet. And about National Voter Registration Day, as of today, we are 180 days away. So it might seem like a lot, but once we get through this presentation, you'll realize that we have a lot of work to do, a lot of ground to cover. So National Voter Registration Day is now in its 14th year. We are both nonpartisan and bipartisan. We like to say that we're one of the few remaining safe spaces for both of those reasons. So thank you all for the reactions. We're super excited to celebrate this big civic celebration in our country. So with 180 days until September 15th, it seems like a lot again, but we got so much work to do, so we wanted to kick this off as early as possible. To those of you who have already signed up as of this morning, thank you so much. National Voter Registration Day truly is a celebration that gives Americans the opportunity to register to vote for the first time or update their voter registration. So whether you're a longtime partner, many of you who are, we thank you so much for returning, or you're brand new to this year, we're just so happy to have you. This year, we're actually expecting about 4,000 local organizations to sign on across the country to run voter drives. So we're gearing up to make sure that you guys are vote ready, but we have a huge cohort coming in for this year. So we'll make sure that you guys are signed up if you haven't already. Thank you to our generous sponsors. So National Voter Registration Day is not possible without the generosity of our sponsors. So we just want to take a moment to acknowledge and thank them. The financial support allows us, sorry, my kid cat. The financial support allows us to create the posters and stickers every year and mail them out to all of you at no cost. So we really want to make sure that National Voter Registration Day stays free and open to all. So you guys have the materials that you need to run your drives. So we thank the sponsors for making this possible. And I'll send them all these hearts and reactions, so thank you. And what we hope you'll take from this discussion, let's start by level setting what we are going to talk about today. So as we know, 2026 is not a business as usual year for civic engagement, for voter education, so on and so forth. So we wanted to focus the content of this webinar on some of the feedback that we've been hearing from partners around what you can do to engage your communities. So that includes how you can be a partner and ways you can participate, what to know about the voter engagement landscape and how to prepare for the year ahead, and then everything you can do from now through Election Day, including what tools and resources are available to you. Jack just dropped in the community partner link into the chat. So if you have not yet signed on for 2026, there's your link to do so. To become a partner, we have just a few rules: be nonpartisan, be inclusive, be informed, stay non-transactional, be vote ready, as we like to call it, and of course, have fun. And for many of you who are returning as partners, you guys already do an incredible job at that, which we'll talk about later in this presentation. So again, here is our QR code. If you haven't clicked the link that Jack dropped into the chat, you can pull out your phone, you can use the camera app, and you can sign up that way, or you can just go to the website directly, sign up to be a partner. The materials will be mailed out in August, but if you sign up now, you'll start to receive the digital materials as those roll out. The posters and stickers will be mailed out in August, but that is your first chance to sign up, get it out the way, then you don't have to worry about it, and you'll receive the full portfolio of materials. So, what you can do as a community partner in 2026. Here are just a few tactical ways that you can participate this year as an NVRD partner. So one of the really important mantras that we're keeping in mind at Nonprofit Vote is step up for those who have to step back. So what that means is if there's an opportunity for you to engage your community, step up. If you live in a community that maybe has taken a step back this year, we totally understand, but here's your opportunity to sort of like fill in the gap. You can start to display those posters and stickers around your community beginning in August when you receive your mailing. You can host your drive on Tuesday, September 15th, so that can be an in-person drive in your community. You can cross-promote NVRD on your social media, so we will share with you all of the captured posts so that you don't have to write them, but you can start to promote if you have a platform. Share the event with your networks. So this is something that you can do via e-blasts. You can start to send that link around. You can start to send the materials when they become available and just kind of spread the word that this will be a community celebration. You can encourage your local election office to celebrate the day. We love working with election offices, and they typically love to work with National Voter Registration Day as well because it's such a celebratory moment for the county or for the city. And then lastly, you can attend webinars and trainings to stay up to date on the key requirements. So we will make sure to keep you in the know. Once you sign up to be a partner, you'll be receiving all of the top information and most pertinent information, including the key resources. Cool. So let's move on. What do you receive as a community partner? So as a community partner, you can place an order at no cost for those package of posters and stickers. If you have been a community partner in the past, which I assume many of you have, drop me a thumbs up or a heart or something in the chat just to let me know how many partners have participated in NVRD. There they go. Oh, that's so good to see. The bottom right of my screen is just flooded with in the chat too. Awesome. Oh, we love that. It's so nice to see so many partners coming back. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So you guys know that you can go into that link. If you are going to have a big event, then you can order as many posters as you need. You can order them in multiple languages as well. But for a new partner, the form is very easy to get through. We make sure that it's very easy for you, but you can select based on how much material you think you'll need for the big day. In addition to that, we have our toolkits, we have our fact sheets, and then we have the ongoing webinars. So you will receive everything that you need. And I see people dropping in the chat. Cheryl said, I'm already a partner. Thank you, Cheryl. I see returning partner this year. Fantastic. Thank you guys so much for being partners and coming back every year. So let's set the stage for the discussion now. We've got a lot of information to share with you. So buckle up. It's a big year, as we already know, but be sure to drop any questions that you have into the Q&A box. I see some people are putting their hands up, but if that means that you have questions, just put them into the Q&A box and then we can make sure that we cover them before we close out. We have a Q&A section where we're answering all the questions that you guys might have. So let's first start by addressing the landscape. So we need to understand the impact of the 2026 midterms. So we want to kick off this conversation really by acknowledging the state of politics, to remind ourselves that even in uncertain times, our communities still show up because we persist and because democracy persists. But the fear and the confusion are real, but so is our resilience, right? That's why we're here. That's why we're here right now and on this webinar. That's why we're engaged around voter engagement and civic education. And that's why we are going to be doing voter drives this year and get out the vote activities as well. But the 2026 midterms really are not just about the national headlines. Decisions that are made at the state and local level this year will directly impact our schools, our healthcare access, housing, public safety, and community resources. And the best part about all of this is that voter registration and National Voter Registration Day are nonpartisan, inarguably nonpartisan. By staying nonpartisan, it allows us to create a welcoming space where all eligible citizens, regardless of party or background, feel safe to participate. So your work ensures that participation remains accessible and visible. Voter registration truly is not just about politics, it's about making sure communities are not left out of the decisions that affect them every single year, especially this year, right? And then lastly, there is a heightened need for us to protect our communities. Trusted messengers matter more than ever this year. When you help someone to talk about civic engagement or get them to learn about what's going on in the community, when you go out and register them to vote or when you encourage them to vote early, you're not just checking a box, you're helping them claim power over decisions that affect their schools, housing, safety, jobs, et cetera, right? This work is deeply local and deeply meaningful. So we want to just level set that this matters. It will continue to matter. And we know that local and state elections this year will directly impact the daily lives of all of our community members. So we want National Voter Registration Day to continue to be an accessible and proven way to build these relationships within your communities and bring new voters into the conversation. So, 10 things to remember when doing voter engagement this year. Number one, stay nonpartisan. It is going to be very tricky and very difficult to do so, but it's very important for your credibility and for the credibility of the campaign to do so. So stay nonpartisan first and foremost. But start by creating a trusted environment. So you are a trusted presence in your community because you speak the language, you educate yourself by coming to these types of webinars, you share the information that you have and what you know, and then you meet people where they are. Message with clarity and care. So this is very important in a 2026 midterm year because there's a lot of information that we want to get out to the communities, and there's a lot of misinformation that we want to avoid. So we actually have a webinar coming up in April, which we'll share with you as part of this presentation. So you'll have more information about how to register your community safely and in compliance. Demonstrate language and cultural competence. I think this one is an easy one for all of you because you're the trusted voices. You know how to speak to your community members, what to say and what not to say. So stay close to that. Know your local voting legislation. This is extremely important. You have to stay on top of what has changed in your state. So we have a resource, the state by state guides for voter registration that we'll make sure you have available to you in August. Be prepared to handle misinformation and sensitive questions. So, one of the things that we try to reinforce is the importance of practice. These are 2026 is a very tricky year again for staying nonpartisan, but it's very important. It's vital. So, practice how you can receive these types of questions the types of questions that you might get from your community. Practice also how you might be able to dispel any misinformation, because that's also going to be how your community gauges how informed you are. So make sure that you feel confident in sharing that information and doing so with the most accurate and up-to-date information. Leverage media safely. So this is a big one, especially something that we've seen in the past couple of years. There's always an opportunity to invite local press to your event, but you also want to make sure that you understand the needs of the community. And if it's going to make the community feel unsafe, and maybe that's not something that you want to do, or maybe that's something that you lean into a coalition to do instead. So not trying to dissuade you from doing so, but just do it with caution. Number 7, partner with trusted local organizations. So this goes back to the coalition messaging. 2026 is a great year for us all to lean into our coalitions. Don't reinvent the wheel, because all of the tools, all of the resources already exist, and there's probably local organizations within your community that are already doing voter engagement. So let's find them, let's start with them, and then let's bring our resources together with them. Number 8, provide language accessible and know your rights materials. So we want you to have this on hand because it's going to come up, and it's not information that you need to memorize. To be frank and candid with you, it's very important that you understand the information, but you can also tell your community, hey, we have a pamphlet that we'd love to give you about the questions that you're asking, and here's another resource that you can take to find out more. So if you don't know, it's okay to say that. You can tell them what you do know, but it's important to have those information and materials available. We can share those with you so you'll have them, or you can place orders for them from some of our partners. Number 9, train volunteers on safety and sensitivity. So this is a big one. It covers 1 through 8, from staying nonpartisan to messaging, but make sure that your volunteers have all the information that you have. So you are running your voter registration drive on September 15th, and unfortunately, you do not want to be the smartest person in the room. You want to be very knowledgeable about your local voting legislation, but you also want to share all of that information with everyone around you. So make sure you are training your volunteers, giving them all the most up-to-date information from your local county election website, from your partner resources, from your coalition, and then make sure that they all understand and have practiced or rehearsed rather, how to navigate some of the difficult conversations that may come up. And last but not least, emphasize citizenship requirements clearly and compassionately. To register to vote in the United States, you do have to be a citizen. So make sure that you start with that, but you can also be very sensitive about how you ask those questions. And if you have any questions about how to navigate that, just let us know, but we'll be building that into our resources as well. So just make sure that since that is a hot topic, just make sure that that is something that you are folding into the dialogue as well. Okay, I see some hands raised, which is great, and I see some questions coming through. So when we get to the Q&A part of our presentation, we will be answering those. In the meantime, feel free to continue dropping in any questions that you have while we run through the presentation. We want to be able to answer these questions for you because I'm sure you guys have many. So please go ahead and drop them into the Q&A box. So let's take a look at some of the initiatives and seats that our communities will see on the ballots this year across the country. U.S. congressional seats, this is the big one, right? All 435 districts in the country are, and 33 seats of the U.S. Senate are up for re-election. So if you're paying attention at all, you know that voters all across the country will be seeing this on their ballots. This means that they really should understand what Congress and Senate does for our country, so that they can make an informed decision about who they put in office. State executive offices, so including down ballot races, there are 300 state executive offices up for election in 43 states. So the majority of the country will be voting on gubernatorial seats, including as well as attorney general seats and secretary of state seats as well. For judge seats, 303 appellate court seats are up for election, and that includes 64 Supreme Court seats. So we are talking about some of the highest levels of government here, and these are very important decision makers in our day-to-day lives. So these are, elections that we want to make sure that voters are not only registered for, but also turning out for. Local ballot measures. So these are like the hot topics, right? We all have them or have experienced them over the past couple of years. Measures include anything from like data centers to rezoning to redistricting to tax increases, just to name a few. But make sure that you yourself, your organization is informed about the local ballot measures so that you can be able to communicate that to voters. And then for other elections that will be on the ballots, that can include anything from school board elections to municipal seats to city council, district attorneys, mayors, and much, much more. So this is all in all a major election year for our country, as we know. And many of these elections will absolutely impact our communities over the next few years. So it's just very important for us to have this information. But what it all comes down to is, as the trusted messengers, you guys are tasked with 3 key responsibilities. So let's talk about what those are. Knowing your community. So as a trusted local organization, having a deep understanding of the community that you serve and their needs is going to reinforce the trust, right? This is you not only showing up, but also just showing that you are part of the community, you're part of the fabric of what makes the community what it is. Knowing your stuff. So voting rules truly can change from year to year, as we know. So make sure that you're well versed in voting legislation for your state and your city and your county before you start planning your drive. So we'll make sure that you have the tools that you need for that. And then lastly, using your tools. So all of the tools, again, have been created for you. No need to reinvent the wheel. We want to reinforce that. Bring together the resources that already exist within your community. Make sure that they are powerful. Make sure that they are tailored, make sure they are relevant, and then make sure they're updated and push those out. But you have everything that you need already. So a little bit about the plug and play resources that we've created. We're so excited to have you guys on as partners, but we understand that you all have your own challenges in your professional sectors, in your families, in your life responsibilities. The list goes on and on. So we just want to make this work as easy and as plug and play for you as possible. Our goal every single year is to monitor the key issues and create solutions so that you can bring the information to your local community. So I hope that's helpful, that we're doing all the thinking, but making sure that you feel prepared and confident. So here's a look at what we're keeping an eye on and how we're building it into our resources for you to use. So the first example is, what is the impact of the 2026 elections on the future of our democracy? We will continue building the tools that you need to go out and talk to voters on National Voter Registration Day or Election Day. So as an example, our community partner fact sheet is going to include some of those talking points on the impact of the 2026 midterm election year. So what we just covered with what's on the ballot, but you'll be able to drill it down to how these seats will impact your community. So I hope that's a really helpful tool, because I think that's going to be something that comes up. And we want to make sure, again, that you guys feel informed and confident to go out and talk to voters about it. Changes to voting legislation. So we'll be working alongside the Fair Election Center again this year to update our annual state-by-state voter registration guides. We're so excited about them because they are such a powerful tool. This year, your guide will be, you can also use your election website, but this year the guides will be posted in August. We'll also be doing a webinar around that, and we'll have Michelle from Fair Election Center speak on that webinar. So you'll be able to ask any questions that you might have about big changes in your state. And then lastly, we heard from partners that you would like to see more specific talking points for demographics in the tools. So whether you're running a voter registration drive for college students or high school students, or maybe community members that are just stopping by a food bank, we're going to make sure that you have the talking points that you need to build up your confidence and have these conversations. In a show of reactions, is what I just described helpful? Because if not, we would love your feedback on what else you would like to see beyond talking point. Okay, I see reactions. Great. Thank you. But this is still an open dialogue. So if there are things that you would like to see build into our tools, to make sure that you guys feel confident to do these voter engagement, to do this work, but also to run drives, let us know. We have our email that we'll share, and then also a survey at the end where you can give us a little bit of feedback. But I'm glad to hear that those are helpful. So now we'll just quickly talk timeline before we start to get into the Q&A. So we are 180 days out, but there's plenty to prepare for. Once again, we want to make sure that you feel prepared and comfortable, but also think through the logistics of your drives, because we did hear from partners that sometimes things came up that they weren't exactly prepared for in their drives. So maybe, doing those practice runs is going to be helpful. But in the next few slides, we'll give you a calendar starting for March that you're going to run through September, everything that you need to do to start prepping your community for National Voter Registration Day. So starting with March, this is March/April. So what you can be doing right now, so I hope you're paying attention. You are on this webinar, so we'll add this and then check it off. Great job. But also start by designating who is going to be on your team. So whether that be a team of volunteers or if you're using staff, designate who's the staff lead. Get that buy-in from either your executive director or senior staff to make sure everyone is aligned with the plans. Create that voter engagement plan. This is going to be the building block that you build from, and we can link to you what that voter engagement plan should entail. And then start to review the voting deadlines in your state. So that includes registration deadlines, that includes your mail-in ballot deadlines. Make sure that you have a full understanding of what the deadlines are so that you can train your volunteers and so that they can pass that information along to voters. Identify those potential partners. You want to do that right now. There are partners that are already doing this in your state. So let's figure out, in your city, in your county, in your neighborhood, let's figure out who those people are and how you can merge your resources with them. Meet with your local election office to establish a relationship. This is really important. They are probably also thinking about what they're going to do around voter engagement. If you guys haven't already had a big election, but you have one coming up, this is a great opportunity and time to tap in. And then develop a system for returning your completed forms. This is really important, and this is information that you can get from your local office as well, but make sure that you have a plan in place for that immediately following National Voter Registration Day. Cool? All right, I'm going to breeze through the other months because you are going to get this recording and the presentation sent to you. But we have May all the way through September. also listed out. Once you build out your voter engagement plan, that's kind of the bulk of it. Then you have to really just implement it. But you can start in May gathering your materials, start doing trainings, and then kick off whatever voter engagement programming and promotion that you're doing. In June, you want to continue that, but then you also want to start talking to the community about the voter registration drives. That's going to be really important to start getting the word out as we get closer. In July, of course, this just depends on when you have elections as well. In July, reassess the goals, look at the voter engagement plan. How are you progressing? How are things going? Where do you need more support or resources, or maybe more volunteers that maybe you can find from the partner groups? And then make sure that 100% of your eligible staff are registered and ready to vote, since they'll be out registering voters themselves. 2 months out, so when you are identifying your voter registration and pledge to vote campaigns, or intensifying, what that means is you are out talking to the community, but you're really pushing the resources that are available. So maybe July is a great opportunity, since it's the summer, to go out to summer events, concerts. People are out and about, especially after all the crazy weather we've been having. People will be outside of this summer. So maybe identify what are the best events happening where you can go and talk to them, and then really build up your confidence, but also get the practice. In August, you'll continue the work that you've been doing, but then also do some voter education activities. Start hanging your posters around your community, and then begin promoting early voting and vote by mail opportunities. What's really important in August is to identify the volunteers that are the most confident in talking to voters. You can do some practice runs of like maybe how to handle nonpartisan conversations, but make sure that you have an idea of who feels confident handling what questions, so that you can kind of segment them a bit. And then in September, you will finalize your voter drive and logistics. You'll do your test run, you'll run your drive, and then you'll start preparing for GOTV season. So again, you will have a recording of this webinar. You'll have a recording, you'll have a link to this presentation, so you'll have the full run through. When you sign up to be a partner, you'll also receive this resource. So before we jump to the Q&A, I'll give you a chance to drop in any last questions into the Q&A box. We're going to just very quickly cover what we have coming up next for National Voter Registration Day, as well as coalition resources. So our designer and our comms team right now is working on our 2026 posters and sticker design, which we are so excited about. We will be making sure that these are available to you starting in August. So these will be mailed directly to you all, but you'll be the first to see the design once it launches. And then we have our digital resources rolling out starting in May. That will be our communication strategy guide, our field organizer toolkit, and our social media toolkit as well. I know many of you use this, so we are going to make sure that we have this available to you. Again, the voter registration guides will be available in August. And then we want to make sure that you have access to all of the webinars that we've done, because a lot of the past webinars will prepare you for this year. So you'll receive these links to our past National Voter Registration Day webinars. And then you'll also receive these links to our past nonprofit vote webinars from this year. One on staying nonpartisan, which was led by Gwen, is fantastic. So you guys have to check that one out. I will include the link to that in the presentation. And then she also did one on how to talk about the value of voting. So I think that's one that's really beneficial to nonprofit organizations. Our web resources include partner resources. So that's everything from like sample messaging to tips and tricks on communications. So you have that available right now on the website. And then our coalition resources are from trusted partners who have created resources for this very important work. So here is a list of our trusted election partners, including the National Association of Secretaries of State, the U.S. Election Assistance Commission, and the National Association of State Election Directors. So make sure that you are using these resources, as well as your local county election offices. And then our coalition is also backed by a number of partners, but here are just a few of our vetted resources, which includes Nonprofit Vote, of course, League of Women Voters, who has Vote 411. We have Vote Riders, who creates the palm cards and distributes them for free, which we love. And then 866 Our Vote, which is a very powerful tool where voters can just ask questions to a chatbot or call the phone number. But these are all just great tools that, again, already exist and they're ready for you. We have our April 29th webinar, so you can scan that code to register. Jack is also up. He already is going to drop in the webinar calendar. It's already in the chat, so you can sign up for that webinar. But we will be talking about how to speak to cultural communities in 2026 about voter engagement, how to maintain the right sensitivities, how to use the right language. We've invited the Arab American Institute, the National Urban Indian Family Coalition, APIA Vote, and Poder Latinx. So they are going to be there to answer any questions that you have about maintaining cultural understanding around voter and civic engagement. And then last but not least, National Voter Registration Day is September 15th. Yay! So we'll see you then and many times before then. So without further ado, we have some questions coming in. It is Q&A time. So thank you all for dropping in your questions into the Q&A box. If you have any questions coming up, please drop them in as well and we'll get them answered. So we'll start with Beth. For this year, is there any change on the national scene that affects what we do with voter registration locally in St. Joseph County, Indiana? Beth, that's a great question. That is going to be answered by our state-by-state voter registration guides, which will be available in August. In the meantime, go to your local county election office because you'll be able to see the most updated information there, or give them a call. But the state guides will kind of capture all of the changes for Indiana in August. Thank you, Beth. Does NVRD provide any resources for primary elections? Sam, yes. We try to provide our resources to be general across all elections, so they're not specific to primaries. But we have partners that we can put you in touch with for primary resources if you just let us know what specifically you might need. Our team can drop in the question in our email, and Sam, you can send us an email and we can connect you to the right resources around primaries. Could voter registration forms be provided per chance? North Carolina recently stopped sending copies. Yes, that's right. So we do not provide voter registration forms. We provide primarily digital resources and the posters and stickers. I believe that there are still opportunities in North Carolina to get some forms, so we can do a little bit of research because I know Gwen works very closely with our partners in North Carolina. So we can get some information to you about other places that we can get you some forms. So Gwen looks like she's typing a response to you right now. Tori said, if we signed up as a community partner last year, do we need to sign up again this year? Yes, you do. The reason is that we distribute the posters and stickers to partners every single year. So we want to make sure that we have the most accurate information to get to you. If we just renewed you automatically, partners move, the information changes, and then we don't want any of the materials to go to waste since they're free of charge to you guys. So yes, you do have to sign up again for this year and provide your most updated and accurate information. Great question though. Anonymous attendee says, what does non-transactional mean in this context? Non-transactional means that you cannot take anything in exchange for their voter registration. That would make it transactional. So you want to make sure that it remains non-transactional. They don't have to do anything or give anything in order to register to vote, right? Dhruv, I apologize if I'm mispronouncing, said, there have been some issues acquiring voter forms from the states. Have y'all heard about anything like this? Yes, this has come up a couple of times. If you let us know what state you're in, very similar to the previous question, we can see what we can do to figure out where we can get you some forms, particularly if you know how many. you need, but yes, that has come up a couple of times now. Heather Pacheco said, September 15th is very late for folks who discover they need vital documents such as a passport. Does NVRD have resources we can utilize earlier in summer for signups and vital doc assistance? So you can use your National Voter Registration Day is designed to take place in September because it meets a lot of the deadlines. But if you're registering voters, you can do that anytime. National Voter Registration Day is the big celebration, but if you know that there might be a community of people who need specific documentation, you can do that more in advance. So you don't have to necessarily wait until the deadline, if that answers that. Becky said, how do we check to be sure we are already a partner? Individual, Becky, I will check myself. We just launched the form this morning, so if you signed up, I can see that on the back end, so I will let you know if you are a partner. Just drop in your email into the chat. In case you're not, I'll send you an email. Etty said, is the League of Women Voters national and local a community partner? Yes, you guys are. League of Women Voters is one of our most favorite partners. Nationally, we work with the League of Women Voters of the US, and then we work with over 600 local leagues from across the country. So we absolutely love and adore you guys. So thank you for being here and participating. Latanya asks, will the slides be shared? Yes, they are coming to you. You will get the recording of this webinar and all of the links that are included because we want you to have this. Super important. Sam said, in our experience with young people, the last thing they want to hear is a lecture. Amen. Amen, Sam. How best to engage with young people without them feeling lectured to or guilt trip when they raise concerns about whether their vote will matter? That is a great question. We want to make sure that we are understanding youth to not be one particular demographic, right? When you think about youth, they can range anywhere from 18 to 34. That's the demographic. So who are you speaking to? And have a very good understanding of how to engage with them based on their concerns. So if you're talking to college students in a particular town in Massachusetts, what are the concerns of those college students? Are they worried about registering at home versus at school? Are they worried about what's happening in Massachusetts versus at home? It's really important to like drill down and not look at them as like a monolithic group. I think that is the first step. And then after that, you do want to have a very casual conversation with youth. They're way more engaged than we think. So you don't want to lecture them. You're absolutely right, Sam. You do want to have a very open conversation with them to see where they are politically and how much education they might need. That doesn't come off as lecturing, of course, but we will be working on those fact sheets, Sam. So we will make sure that you have that. And you can always let us know what particular demographic you're working with so that we can make sure that we get that information to you. Someone asked, is NVRD offering grants this year? We hope so. The grants are based on how much we're able to fundraise outside of the direct expenses. So if we have some rollover funding that we can issue out, yes. But as of right now, no, we will keep you updated, which will probably come around June. Is there ASL posters? Annette, no, we don't have ASL posters, but that is something that we can create. We can look at the resources that we have available. So if you send us an email and if you have an ASL translator, I'm sure we can figure out how to make that available. We also have our posters on Canva and they are editable. So you will be able to go in and maybe add any language that you want to include in there as well. So maybe there's a collaboration opportunity. Yes, Dr. BJ, please share this recording with your colleagues. Absolutely. And encourage them to sign on to run drives as well. Is there a list of partners in each state and city? No, we don't have a public list, but we can share with you, Liat. If you send us an email, let us know what city and state you're in, and I can connect you to other partners like within the zip code. So just send us an email, info@nationalvoterregistrationday.org. I am going to answer a few more questions. I love all these questions coming in. This is exactly why we wanted to have a nice chunk of time just for the Q&A, so keep it coming. What are some events, ideas to engage younger voters to get them to show up? We have some really good partners that have some ideas for what you can do. You can make it a party. You can make it fun. This goes back to the answer I gave previously, which is you really want to know the demographic of the youth voters that you are trying to attract. But there's things like pizza parties and music, like having a DJ, maybe giving out some cool stuff, like, everyone loves stickers and wristbands and that sort of thing. So there's lots of cool ideas and activations, maybe a skateboard party. It just depends on who you are, what type of young voter. Again, we don't want to see them as a monolithic group, so that helps us identify how to speak to them. Anne said, many high schools are not talking about voting, not talking about the process of voting, and not talking about registering to vote. Can NVRD amplify the need to work with high school students? Absolutely. We have a gap in civic education in our country, so it is very important for local organizations to fill that gap that's not existing within the curriculum. There's opportunities to partner with high schools. There's opportunities to partner with local election offices to go into schools. And there's also, you can just encourage your local offices to go into the schools themselves to give presentations. Some of our favorite partners, like the state of Iowa, the Secretary of State, Secretary Pate, he does a student voter registration day in select schools because he sees the importance of like bringing that civic education back in. So maybe that's an opportunity that you can take to libraries or take to local election officials to see if you can partner up to go into the schools. These are fantastic questions. Thank you guys so much. A few of us, Minda said, a few of us are here from a library. Hello. Would the library register to become a partner, or do each of us need to register? You can just register the library. We'll get the materials to the library, and then you guys can post the posters and stickers around, all around the library or outside. Bridget said, do we have any youth-specific stickers? We are in New Jersey and have a law that allows 17-year-olds to vote in June primaries. Yes, pre-registration. Trying to appeal to them as much as possible. Yes, totally understand, but no, we don't have youth-specific stickers. However, you will be able, again, to edit the Canva template, so you can make it a little bit more like youth-specific for the posters, but nothing available for the stickers. Melissa said, I will be organizing an NVRD drive at a college. Great. What's an online tool for folks to register to vote and for us to track those registrations? So you can send students to different links. If you send us an email, I can send you a link to a platform that we use called TurboVote, but you can also just send all of the college students directly to their local elections offices, and they can register if they have online voter registration through that link, and then it goes directly to their election offices. So you have a couple of options there. Madison said, mis and disinformation is an issue. Yes. Do you have a public graphics or handout we can give to folks? I'm in a public library as well, so I'm looking for nonpartisan resources. Any suggestions? Welcome. Madison, that's a great tool suggestion. We have a few partners that have that, so we can connect you with those. We ourselves don't have one just yet, but maybe that's something that we can create for this year. But in the meantime, I can get you some resources, so send us an email on that. Will the federal work for all out-of-state registration when you are registering on campus? Will the federal form work? The federal form is the universal form, so you should check with your local election office to figure out how they want to do that. But yes, typically you can register anyone using the federal form. And Bonnie said, I have an ASL interpreter, my daughter-in-law, that can help. Bonnie, please send us an email because then we can do some ASL resources. I love this. Thank you. That is fantastic. And that actually was our last question. Thank you guys so much. That was awesome. I tried to fly through those as quickly as possible, so apologies if I was talking very quickly. But yes, Bonnie, please send us an email so we can connect. I'd love to have a conversation with you. So to close out our Q&A with some quick next steps, again, if you have not signed on just yet, thank you so much, David. Please use the QR code or the link. We have a big push this year for our partners to sign on. So we want to make sure to get these materials to as many people as possible, right? It's free postage and stickers. Do not pass them up, and they're in multiple languages. So please get them in so that we can process them on the back end and make sure to get them to you once they're mailed out. So if you haven't signed on just yet, and $250 for the 250th, this is our new donation campaign because again, we want to keep this open and free to all, but you can donate to NVRD for as little as $250, and in celebration of the country, it will make sure that we can get materials to other partners. So if you are able to, this is our new donation platform that we just created, so we hope it'll get some traction, but thought it might be like a cute idea for the 250th celebration. But we would love to have any donations that you're able to provide. And then lastly, this is our email. I know I mentioned it quite a few times. So info at National Voter Registration Day. I monitor them alongside our team, so I will see the emails as it comes in. But please feel free to ask any questions. I know I mentioned that a lot of you should email me so that we can get a few things started. So I would love to hear from you. And I'm happy to connect any of you to local partners that are signed on for NVRD so that you guys can maybe merge resources. So just send us an email and happy to do so. And then lastly, follow us on social because we want to see your photos, especially as you're having your events, but all throughout the year. If you're doing any voter engagement work, please send it over. And we'd love to see all of the partner information that you guys send as well. So thank you so much. And we will see you April 29th for our next webinar. Thank you so much for being here today. We're so grateful and appreciative that you're dedicated to this work. And we have your back, so let's do it, right? And we'll see you again on April 29th and September 15th for National Voter Registration Day. Thank you all for being here and take care. Bye.